Palermo. Rowe. Bagley. Harding. Johnson. Melton. Mr. President.
Here. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance and remarks by Councilmember Johnson.
Well, what an exciting day today. Everyone is in the lobby looking your best. And I really appreciate you guys doing your civic duty today by coming and making your voices known. Thank you and have a great day.
An affidavit of publication is on file for the pre-council and city council meeting, and a current copy of the Open Meeting Act is posted in a white binder on the east wall of the legislative chambers.
Good afternoon and welcome to the Omaha City Council. We look forward to hearing your testimony on these items today. Please turn your cell phones off or at least turn them to vibrate. First on the agenda today, items 6 through 9, we have mayoral vetoes pertaining to the budget and override items. We'll start with number 6 and recognize Councilmember Johnson if she wants to have any remarks.
Again, I'm going to bring to the attention that on May 11th, I was voted into office, and this request to have funding set aside for a website was purposely placed in because District 2 is in very much need of winning. And they're in need of a win in a big way. I believe this website would be that tool that will allow us to steer and turn economic growth for the area. It would allow us a platform to put notification up to the community when bids are available. It would also allow us to notify folks such as we're having today or recently. The planning department provided a list to individuals in a certain area of District 2 of open property that was listed. Everyone would have that access to that opportunity should this website be available. Also, as we mentioned in our last meeting, there was discussion, there was a opposition to put this money or place this money to be set aside for those in need or possibly facing eviction. And it was pointed out by the law department that there were funds allocated in another area of the budget to address that concern. So again, I would go ahead and advocate that we vote up for this item, this amendment for $15,000 to have a consultant provide a website for District 2, again, as a tool to create economic growth for that area. Thank you.
Thank you. Is that a motion?
That is a motion to approve.
To override, correct?
To override the veto. I'm sorry.
Second.
There's a motion and a second. No further lights. Roll call.
Palermo.
Yes.
Rowe.
No.
Bagley.
Aye.
Harding.
No.
Johnson.
Aye.
Melton.
No.
Mr. President.
Yes.
Motion failed 4-3. Item 7 is mayor's veto for the North Saddle Creek Business District improvements for years 2022 to 2023 in the amount of $300,000.
So this was an amendment that I submitted, and just a reminder about what its intention was. The intention is to address the area between Northwest Radial Highway and what's affectionately called the Peanut at about 50th Street. So 3 blocks of the North Saddle Creek Business District that's badly in need of new infrastructure. What I'm doing here is pursuing the same model that we pursued for neighborhood business district renovations that we achieved in Dundee, Benson, and Florence, and doing so in an organized fashion that includes a master plan that we've already raised private money for, and the adoption of a BID, which then would take care of the improvements once constructed, and we would do that now. It may also include some rezoning, but may not. Dundee, for example, decided to pursue the NCE overlay, but Benson did not. So that's on the table, but not predicated upon the possibility of something being rezoned. It would raise private dollars to match this allocation, and allows me and gives me the time I need to do that by having this not appear until 2023 in the CIP. And that would be about $1.5 million raised from the private sector to match the city funds this tries to make available at that time. In 2022, the only impact is $50,000. That's just the design component of what eventually gets recommended, same as the other projects. The observation has been that this might be premature. It's not premature. As I mentioned, that's the same process we've followed to be successful in other neighborhood business districts, and gives me the time to do just what I described. It does take time to go through a master plan and adopt a BID, and certainly takes some time to raise $1.5 million in matching funds, but I'm confident that can be accomplished. If you're familiar with the area, there are some great business anchors there. You know, the Homey Inn, the Saddle Creek Breakfast Club, Janisex, some really popular places. But if you also know the area, you know it's kind of like Benson was 8 years ago. It could go either way right now. So by the city investing and showing this commitment to the area, I know it can be successful long term. The veto message does express some concern about the source of funds. I'm certainly open to the other source of funds, and I did ask this be included in the CIP up front, which it was not. So that's why we're taking the approach we have here today. But frankly, the funds being proposed, which are transportation bonds, can be used for this purpose, and $50,000 in 2022 isn't going to prevent any other project from taking place. It still leaves $290,000 in that account for that purpose. And having done this for a long time, in fact, as long as anybody in the room, I know that $50,000 in transportation bonds falls through the cracks just about every day in city government when you talk about a $500 million CIP, so I really don't think that's the issue. I did appreciate the 6-0 initial vote for the sake of that neighborhood and for the sake of raising the private funds and the positive impact to our tax base. So I would encourage and hope to have an override on this issue today so that we continue the momentum we've seen in these areas like Dundee, Benston, and Florence, but also Blackstone and Elkhorn and North and South 24th Street and many other areas where this can really be a possibility. Thank you. Is there a motion?
Motion to override.
Second.
Motion and a second. No further, Mr. Rowe.
I would like to say a few words. I did make a trip up to the North Saddle Creek area over the weekend and just kind of scouted out the area. I did vote for it initially, but what I didn't realize was that the funds coming from the Urban Design Retrofit Fund were already committed. So I'm going to have to change my vote today. I know it's only $50,000, but it is $50,000, and I think those dollars are earmarked for other projects. And so that's the reason I'll be voting no.
I appreciate that. And so my only comment to that notion is that whatever project that is certainly has been brought to my attention, and it does leave $290,000 for that project, whatever that might be, which also has not come to the council yet. So in my view, it could all be accomplished together, but I appreciate those remarks. There's a motion and a second. No further lights. Roll call.
Palermo.
Yes.
Rowe. Bagley.
Aye.
Harding.
No.
Johnson.
Yes.
Melton.
No.
Mr. President.
Yes.
Motion fails 4-3. Item 8, Mayor's veto for the Capital Improvement Program to include the Bicycle and Pedestrian Master Plan Implementation Program for years 2023 to 2027 in the amount of $1,250,000.
Thank you. I'll address this one and maybe the next one too, as I also submitted these. Just briefly. The observation, I think, on the override, or on the veto, which pertains to the Bicycle and Pedestrian Master Plan, is not that we don't all support that, because I think we all do, and clearly we all just voted for it unanimously, and it's moving forward. But the veto observed that we don't know the recommendations yet, and so doesn't feel it should be added in the CIP. And that's true, we don't know the recommendations yet, but we will know that there's going to be short-term and long-term recommendations coming out of that plan, In fact, that's clearly spelled out in the RFP that we approved last week. And my approach is, rather than having the same conversation at this time next year, which at that point will be for 2024, I think we should be planning ahead to implement these things both in a short-term and long-term fashion. It's a very modest amount in 2023. It does not substantially alter any other plans we're working on out of that fund. Those funds can be used for this purpose. It's consistent with the Connect Go strategy just released, which is a multimodal strategy that encourages all forms of government and private sector to work together on these things. So to me, the time is now for government to step up and be a good partner and start funding these opportunities and these initiatives. We all did campaign on improving transit as a component and an important aspect of retaining and attracting our future workforce. And I think this is one of those things that would further that cause and be a positive indication to everyone in that respect. So I would also encourage this veto be overridden. Is there a motion?
Motion to override. Second.
No further lights? Roll call.
Palermo.
Yes.
Rowe.
No.
Bagley.
Aye.
Harding.
No.
Johnson.
Yes.
Melton.
No.
Mr. President.
Yes.
Motion fails 4-3. Item 9, Mayor's veto for the capital improvement program to include the Harney Street Protected Bikeway for year 2023 in the amount of $500,000.
So I'll address this just briefly too, although I can see where this is going. The observation on the veto of making the protected bike lane permanent from Market to Midtown was that we have not done the 2022 assessment yet, which is part of the pilot project that we all approved and has come to the City Council before. And again, that's true, but I'm confident the 2022 assessment is going to show some direct recommendations for us to implement. But even if it didn't, it's not something we have to implement at that time. But again, unless we're planning for these things and planning some city funding in 2023, which is what this would do, we'll be looking at each other again this time next year and wondering what can we do for 2024. So once again, this project has been delayed maybe 10 years already, and that would delay it maybe another 2 years. So I just think it's time for us to step up to the plate and start funding these things and being a good partner. The observation was that transportation bonds can only be used for 15-year type of improvements, and that's true. But certainly that can be a point of flexibility when we do get those recommendations between what will certainly be some private money and city money in the mix. And I'm quite confident that what I'll recommend won't be pylons that are temporary in nature, but things like medians and curbing and bollards and things that are 15-year capital improvements in nature. So I don't think that's the issue either. But again, most important, I would just say, I think the city needs to step up and be a good partner and start funding these things and show that it's committed to these projects and show that we can make progress in transit and multimodal strategies. Thank you. I'll recognize Councilmember Bagley.
Thanks, Mr. President. I just want to briefly thank you for your leadership on this. My constituents, the Harney Street bike lane was very important to the overwhelming amount of people that I heard from on this issue. So I appreciate your leadership on this, and I'm going to support the override on this. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Rowe.
Okay, I feel like I'm a negative guy here today, but I do want to speak to my opposition. It was back in, I think, March that the previous council before the three of us were installed, passed a resolution to provide for a pilot program for the Market to Midtown Bikeway, and it passed. And as part of that agreement, there were 9 metrics that needed to be 9 measurements that needed to be looked at over an 18-month period. And those were going to be reported to us every 6 months. They were going to look at these 9 metrics and report to us what the results of those metrics were. Well, we're about 3 or 4 weeks in, and we're wanting to fund this permanently. And so I'm having a hard time understanding how I can vote to override this veto. I'd like to see some of these metrics reported, and I'm for the bike path. I like the Market to Midtown bike path. I was there at the ribbon cutting. I'm a proponent, but I'd like to see some results of these metrics before I vote to permanently put it in place and then have egg on my face down the road. So I'll be voting no on this one, Mr. President.
Mr. Palermo, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. President. I too wanted to thank you, Mr. President, for your work and effort and experience on these exact amendments that we have in front of us. This doesn't come easy, and it doesn't come from you not knowing what this city needs. So it's unfortunate, especially last week when we had some 6-0 votes, but now votes are being changed. And you have to ask yourself, why was it okay a week ago, but now it's not okay today? And if we talk about the small amount of money on some of these, I could certainly ask the finance director, which I won't, how many departments lose so many pencils within their department? And if you rounded that up, how much money would that actually cost? This is what we're talking about. So anybody that sits up here and they talk about better in the city of Omaha, retaining people in the city of Omaha, making things happen in the city of Omaha, ask yourself why you're not supporting what we have in front of us. Thank you.
Thank you. No further lights. Was there a motion?
Motion to override.
Second.
Yep, motion and a second. Roll call.
Palermo.
Yes.
Rowe.
No.
Bagley.
Aye.
Harding. Johnson.
Yes.
Melton. Mr. President.
Yes.
Motion failed 4-3. Item 10, a resolution to approve the 2022 budget with the revisions adopted at this meeting.
Is there a motion? No further lights. Roll call.
Palermo.
Yes.
Rowe. Bagley.
Aye.
Harding. Johnson. Melton. Mr. President.
Yes.
Motion passed 7-0.
Thanks.
Don't leave that here. Leave it on the max of it.
Yeah.
Item 11, a resolution to approve the preliminary plat for State and Highway 133 addition located northwest of Blair High Road and State Street. Planning Board and Planning Department recommend approval.
Public hearing today on agenda item 11. Is the applicant here?
City of Omaha Mayor's Office, here on behalf of the applicant to make myself available for any questions.
Okay, thank you. Are there any proponents here? Seeing none. Any opponents? Seeing none.
Second.
Roll call? What? Oh, sorry. Okay, we'll close the public hearing at this time. Yep, motion and a second. Roll call.
Palermo. Rowe. Bagley. Harding. Johnson. Melton. Mr. President.
Yes.
Motion passed 6-0.
Public hearing on agenda item 12
Hang on,
through.
I gotta read it.
Oh, okay, sorry.
Items
We'll
tw-
get this.
Items 12 through 14 can be considered together for Irvington Industrial Replat 3, located at 4845 North 90th Street. Planning Board and Planning Department recommend approval. Item 12 is an ordinance to amend the boundaries of the MCC overlay district to incorporate this property into that district. Items 13 and 14 are resolutions to approve the preliminary plat and final plat.
This is 12 through 14, correct? Okay, public hearing today on agenda items 12 through 14. And open the public hearing. Are there any? Oh, okay. Okay, Trevor Veskana. Hope I pronounced that right. You're unmuted. Go ahead.
All right, this is Trevor Veskerna with Thompson, Dreesen, and Dorner, here representing our client Siri Holdings for the Industrial Replat 3. I'm here to answer any questions if you have them.
Okay, thank you. I'll let you know if we do. Are there any proponents here today? Seeing none. Are there any opponents? Seeing none, public hearing is closed.
Mr. Vice President. Mr. Viskerna, could you just briefly, like a couple sentences, just tell us what your project is, just briefly?
Our client is proposing to replat the existing lot 6 into 2 separate lots. Each lot will have it's got a commercial business on each lot, parking stalls and drive aisles. We'll also have an ingress and egress easement between the 2 lots. But that's about it, just separating the lot into 2 lots.
Separating the lots, it's for further development, so you can have 2 developments as opposed to 1?
Correct.
Okay, thank you. And I seconded the motion to approve. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Melton. Roll call?
Rowe. Bagley. Harding. Johnson. Melton. Mr. President.
Yes.
Motion passed 6-0. Items 15 and 16 can be considered together for property located southwest of 144th Street and West Dodge Road. Planning Board and Planning Department recommend approval. Item 15, an ordinance to rezone this property from R7 District and MD District to MU District. Item 16, an ordinance to approve a major amendment to mixed-use district development agreement for West Farm.
Public hearing for agenda items 15 and 16 are at this time.
Yes, Mr. President, members of the council, Larry Jobin, 11440 West Center Road, appearing on behalf of really 2 applicants, one, item 15 being Broadmoor, with respect to the 16-acre parcel that's being rezoned from R7 to MU, and the other with respect to Lanahaw Development, actually applied underwriters, with respect to the 34, almost 35 acres of mixed-use area within the West Farm development. With me today is Jason Lanahaw of Lanahaw Development, Mike Pernicke of Olson, the traffic engineers on this particular development. Joe Flaxbeard is here with Lamford Nearson, who are the engineers for the Sanitary and Improvement District and the development generally. And also with me is John Keel of D.A. Davidson, the underwriters for the SID. They underwrite the public debt for the municipal corporation and political subdivision of the Sanitary and Improvement District. And also we have Jeff Silver of Applied Underwriters here, just in case we have any questions, but that's the entire development team. So what we have here really is a major amendment, item 16, to the existing mixed-use development agreement. And the idea behind it is to increase the density parameters for the commercial and office square footage, as well as the number of potential apartment units within the development. There is an approved traffic study. The approved traffic study showed that based upon this increase in density, that there was no additional public infrastructure required as far as the street system. So that was one of the issues at Planning Board that I think has now been resolved. So with that, I'm happy to answer any questions that you might have. Again, this comes to you with favorable recommendations from the department as well as the Planning Board. So we're all here for questions if you have any.
Okay, thank you. Are there any other proponents? Are there any opponents on 15 and 16? Seeing none, public hearing's closed. Oh, I apologize. Councilmember Harding, you're recognized.
Larry, you don't need to come back up. I was just going to make a general statement. Nice to see a lot of activity in West Omaha as well, and appreciate the efforts of Lanahaw, Broadmoor, the rest of the development partners, and Applied. Great investment in our city, and certainly hard to believe, but an infill project really at 144th and Dodge, but great activity and very, very appreciative of the efforts, and will support this. So I'll make that motion to approve.
Second.
Motion and a second. Public hearing's closed. Roll call?
Rowe. Yes. Bagley. Aye. Harding. Yes. Johnson. Yes. Melton. Yes. Mr. President.
Yes.
Motion passed 6-0. Items 17 and 18 can be considered together for property located at 445 South 193rd Street. Planning Board and Planning Department recommend approval. Item 17, an ordinance to amend the boundaries of the MCC overlay district to incorporate this property into that district. Item 18, a resolution to approve a special use permit to allow assisted living in the R5 district with a waiver to section 55-206 height located at 445 South 193rd Street.
Public hearing on agenda items 17 and 18 are today. Applicant?
I'm Kyle Haase with E&A Consulting Group, 10909 Mill Valley Road, representing the applicant. As was stated, we are looking to ask for a rezone for the MCC overlay, along with a special use permit to allow assisted living within an R5 zoning. The property in question is located in the southwest corner of 192nd and Harney Street. It'll be a mix of provided memory care, assisted living, and independent living. And then with the property, with the church to the west, future development Avenue 1 to the north, some more maybe multifamily to the south, and then there'll be multifamily to the east in the future as well. With that, I'll make myself available for any questions.
All right, thank you. Are there any other proponents here today? Seeing none, are there any opponents? Public hearing is closed. Roll call?
Rowe. Bagley. Harding. Johnson. Melton. Mr. President.
Yes.
Motion passed 6-0. Item 19, a resolution to approve a special use permit to allow a broadcast tower in the DR district with approval of a waiver to section 55-506 height located at 11805 Military Road. Planning Board and Planning Department recommend approval.
Public hearing on agenda item 19 is today. Are there any proponents? Seeing none? Are there any opponents? Sir, did you come down to talk on agenda item 19?
As the applicant.
Oh, sorry. Come on up, the applicant for 19. We'll back
Excuse
up
me.
a little bit.
Good afternoon, Mr. President, City Council. Anthony Amin Associates, 200 East Big Beaver Road, Troy, Michigan. Appearing this afternoon on behalf of American Tower Delaware Corporation. Here this afternoon to obtain special use permit approval at the Planning Board blessed on their July 7th hearing, and I'm here to answer any questions that you may have.
Okay, as a proponent, right?
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Are there any opponents here today on agenda item 19? Seeing none, no lights. Sorry. Councilmember Melton.
Sir, and I'm sorry, I didn't catch your last name.
Sorry, I ducked. Anthony, last name is Amin, A-M-I-N-E.
Oh, well, thank you, Mr. Amin. Welcome to Omaha.
Thank you.
I just want to ask, we have had some issues with a couple towers lately, not in my district, but can you just explain where it's going to be? Maybe confirm it won't be in the middle of somebody's front yard or the middle of a sidewalk or the middle of a street or where some of the other towers have gone. Just because now we're a little paranoid that we may approve this and then we don't know where it actually went.
Absolutely. A very good question. This is a relocation. The tower is proposed at 11805 Military Road. There is an existing tower to the east at 11401 Military Road. The landlord on both properties is the Metropolitan Utilities District.
Okay.
And due to their planned development, they've asked us to take the tower down. So the plan now is to put the temporary tower up so that the cellular carriers don't lose the ability to provide coverage in the area. You should have a site plan. I can take a quick look. It should be a couple hundred feet off of Military Road, the temporary location. It'll be a 195-foot tower. It'll be contained within a 100 by 100 foot compound.
Got it.
And it is a macro
I think
tower.
I see it here.
Okay.
It's not, there really isn't anything around it, so.
That is correct. It's a macro tower. It's not a small cell or something that where carriers put in front yards or along the roads.
Okay, thank you. And you may not, just a couple weeks ago, it was a story, and it wasn't your company, obviously, but they literally put it in the middle of a sidewalk, in the middle of a neighborhood. So that's why we're all just a little paranoid, so I just wanted to ask a couple more questions.
Absolutely, as you should be. It happens around the country. The issue with the small cells is the siting of them is an issue today.
Yeah, well, thank you very much, and with that, I'll move to approve it, so thank you.
Very much.
No more lights. Motion and a second. Public hearing is closed. Roll call?
Rowe. Bagley. Harding. Johnson. Melton. Mr. President.
Yes.
Motion passed 6-0. Item 20, to consider a Class C liquor license for Saffron Urban Kitchen Bombay Bar located at 6706 Francis Street. Is communication from the Planning Department regarding permits for the outdoor area and right-of-way lease.
Public hearing on agenda item 20 is today. Mr. Kelly, you're recognized.
Good afternoon, Mr. President, members of the council. Sean Kelly, 2804 South 87th Avenue. Appearing on behalf of the applicant, we are aware of the communication from the planning department and will comply with that outdoor area and potential right-of-way lease. Here to answer any questions. Thanks.
Are there any other proponents here today? Agenda item 20. Seeing none. Any opponents? Seeing none. Councilmember Bagley, you're recognized.
Thanks, Mr. President. I just wanted to say best of luck in this endeavor in the middle of Exarban there. Great location, middle of my district, and I'll look forward to maybe popping by there on an occasion or two. So thanks, Sean.
Thank you.
Seeing no lights, is there a motion?
A motion to approve.
Yeah, with, subject to permits with a right-of-way lease.
Subject with permits with the right-of-way lease.
Okay. There's motion and a second. Public hearing is closed. Roll call.
Rowe. Bagley. Harding. Johnson. Melton. Mr. President.
Yes.
Motion passes 5-0. I think Melton abstains. All right. Item 21, to consider a Class C liquor license for 402 Beer and Spirits located at 13110 Birch Drive, Suite 116.
Public hearing is today on agenda item 21. And it looks like we have Daniel Saltzman by Zoom. Go ahead, Daniel.
Hello, this is Daniel Saltzman. I'm here to answer any questions you may have for me.
Need his address. And your address, please.
The address of the store is 14450 Eagle Run Drive, Suite 100.
Okay, thank you. Are there any proponents here today? Are there any opponents? Okay, public hearing is closed.
Number is this?
21.
Gave a different address.
You gave a different address and what's,
Sorry, you are correct. That's my mistake. The address for the premises, sorry, it's I gave you the address for the owner, but the premises address is 13110 Birch Drive, Suite 116. It's on 132nd and Maple.
all right, thank you.
Okay, great. We've got them both now. Okay, public hearing is closed. Roll call.
Rowe. Bagley. Harding. Johnson. Melton. Mr. President.
Yes.
Motion passed 6-0. Item 22, to consider a Class I liquor license for Panda House Chinese Restaurant located at 14459 West Center Road.
Okay, the public hearing on agenda item 22 is today. And it looks like we do have Lillian Liu from the Panda House on Zoom.
Hi, my name is Lillian. The Panda House Chinese restaurant is a full-service restaurant serving alcohol beverage to complement the meal. My location in the 14459 West Center Road, Omaha. I'm here for answer question you have.
Okay, great, thank you. Are there any other proponents here today on agenda item 22? Seeing none? Any opponents? Seeing none, no lights. Is there a motion?
Second.
Motion and a second, roll call. Our public hearing is closed. Roll call.
Rowe. Bagley. Harding. Johnson. Melton. Mr. President.
Yes.
Motion passed 6-0. Item 23, to consider a Class I liquor license for Sweet Cakes and Roses located at 14040 Arbor Street.
Public hearing on agenda item 23 is today. And it looks like we have Rachel Pagels here on Zoom.
Yes, I'm Rachel Pagels. This is Molly Pagels, and we're at 140 Arbor Street here in Omaha with Sweet Cakes and Roses.
Okay, and you're just available if we have any questions?
Yes, sir.
Okay, great. Are there any other proponents here today? Seeing none, are there any opponents? Seeing none, no lights. Public hearing's closed. Is there a motion? Motion and a second, roll call.
Rowe. Bagley. Harding. Johnson. Melton. Mr. President.
Yes.
Motion passed 6-0. Item 24, to consider reconstruction and trade name changes for Bucks LLC for the locations as listed on the agenda.
Okay, public hearing for agenda item 24 is today. It looks like we have another Zoom applicant, Crystal Carter.
Good afternoon, Council. This is Crystal Carter. I live in Lincoln, Nebraska, but I'm representing Casey's General Stores out of Ankeny, Iowa, 1 Convenience Boulevard, and I'm here to answer any questions you may have.
Okay, great. We'll see if we have any questions for you. Okay. Did you get it? Yeah. Okay. Are there any proponents on agenda item 24? Are there any opponents on agenda item 24? Seeing none, public hearing's closed. Motion and a second, roll call.
Rowe. Bagley. Harding. Johnson. Melton. Palermo.
Yes.
Oh, sorry. Motion passed 6-0. Mr. President, sorry. Consent agenda. Any member of the City Council may cause any item placed on the consent agenda to be removed. Items removed from the consent agenda shall be taken up by the City Council immediately following the consent agenda in the order in which they were removed, unless otherwise provided by the City Council Rules of Order.
The public hearing on agenda items 25 through 30 were held on August 17th, 2021. Okay, the motion and a second, roll call.
Rowe. Bagley. Harding. Johnson. Melton. Mr. President.
Yes.
Motion passed 6-0.
The public hearings on agenda items 31 through 49 are today. If you wish to address the City Council regarding these items, please come to the microphone, indicate the agenda item number you wish to address, identify yourself by name, address, who you represent, and if you are a proponent or opponent.
Hi, my name is Sarah Johnson, 2316 North 52nd Street. I'm here as an opponent today on buying more trucks, which is item number 33, truck chassis. It's almost $200,000, which I think is just interesting that it's almost the same amount as what the pilot bike lane project cost. Just here to point out that we continue to buy trucks. We prioritize vehicles that have motors. And I know that this is maybe not fun for any of you to hear, but yeah, I think we should stop continuing to only buy trucks. I know this is not exactly relevant, but I'm just disappointed in you all. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you.
Good afternoon, Mr. President, members of the council. Deputy Chief Anna Colon with the Omaha Police Department, 505 South 15th Street, Omaha, Nebraska, and I'm here to represent agenda item number 58, and I'm available for any questions.
What number? Huh? Oh, 50, okay. 48, okay.
58, I'm sorry, 48, I apologize.
Okay, 48, thank you. Okay, anybody else? Public hearing's closed. Motion and a second, roll call.
Rowe. Bagley. Harding. Johnson. Melton. Mr. President.
Yes.
Motion passed 6-0. Item 50, an ordinance levying a special tax and assessment on certain lots, parts of lots, and pieces of real estate to cover the cost of clearing snow and ice from sidewalks in the district number SWSR 2021-01. A is amendment of the whole, and B is a revised amendment of the whole.
Of the whole.
Second.
Okay, motion and a second, roll call.
Rowe. Bagley. Harding. Johnson. Melton. Mr. President.
Yes.
Motion passed 6-0. Item 51, an ordinance approving the lease agreement with Union Pacific for a private road crossing near 41st and D Streets.
Is there a motion? Okay. Motion and a second. Roll call.
Rowe. Bagley. Harding. Johnson. Melton. Mr. President.
Yes.
Motion passed 5-0. Johnson abstains. Item 52, an ordinance approving an interlocal agreement with Douglas County and Sarpy County to provide household hazardous waste services.
Public hearing is today on agenda item 52. Are there any proponents? Seeing none, are there any opponents? Seeing none, the public hearing is closed.
Item 53, an ordinance to approve a major amendment to a mixed-use district development agreement for Thompson Mile West, located at 17617 Manderson Street. Planning Board and Planning Department recommend approval.
The public hearing on agenda item 53 is today. Proponents, please.
Good afternoon, John Prasosky, 9500 West Dodge Road, appearing on behalf of the applicant, Westgate Bank. Happy to answer any questions anyone has.
Okay, thank you. I'll let you know if we have any. Are there any other proponents on agenda item 53? Seeing none, are there any opponents? Seeing none, the public hearing is closed.
Item 54, an ordinance to amend various sections of Chapter 55 of the Omaha Municipal Code to correct several typographical errors. Planning Board and Planning Department recommend approval.
Public hearing is today on agenda item 54. Are there any proponents?
Sorry, did you say 55?
Next one, 54 right now. Are there any opponents? Public hearing is closed.
Item 55, an ordinance to amend Chapter 49 of the Omaha Municipal Code to amend the plumbing code. Plumbing Board recommends approval.
Public hearing is today on agenda item 55. I believe we do have a couple people to speak. Come on down.
Good afternoon, members of the council. Anna Besboy-Asney and Martin Gomez, Chief Plumbing Inspector with the Planning Department. These are updates to the Omaha Municipal Code for Chapter 49, the Plumbing Code. And we are here for any questions if you have any.
Thank you, Anna. Are there any other proponents on agenda item 55?
Mike Barrett with Plumbers Local 16, 4801 F Street. I've passed these changes around to my union brothers and my non-union brothers. We've all looked at it. It looks perfect. I just want you guys to understand this code addresses unique issues to this city, such as our frost line and how it can heave, and it affects our waters and our sewers. It also addresses the combined storm and sanitary sewer we have, and the changes we have to make to address that as we split those two sewers. This code has protected this city for as long as I've been a plumber and even longer. The sooner we pass it, the better off we're going to be. I would also like to thank Jim Wonder for being a protector of this code for the last 30 years, and I'd like to thank Martin Gomez for continuing his work in the future. That's all I have.
Okay, thank you. Are there any other proponents on agenda item 55? Seeing none, any opponents? Seeing no lights, public hearing's closed. Oh, Mr. Starr, come on down. I closed it too early. Number 55.
I'm sorry, but I have to ask you again. I do not have a problem in the morning hearing the Douglas County Board, but in the afternoon, for some reason, I can't hear a lot of what's said.
Okay, I'm going to turn it up right now for you. There you go.
Okay. I'm opposed to 55 because I haven't the foggiest, and I want to say why. I don't think I ever heard anybody in this chamber actually read these to us, so I haven't had the benefit of a reading. But these different items have different methods of handling them. Some have a hearing on the second reading, some don't. Some have a hearing on both the second and the third hearing and a vote. But they're not all of them. it appears to be different, whether it's an ordinance or a resolution or whatever. But the point is, under the Open Meetings Act, citizens do have the right to be able to understand what's going on. So she reads awful fast. I don't know. She just reads what's in here. But do you think the average citizen can sit down and read this before you've gone over 5 items? So I have sent one letter. I will be sending another letter asking for a meeting, not a lawsuit. Don't get me wrong. Just a meeting with the Attorney General to try to persuade him that since every different political body has different rules and different ways, that the average citizens probably don't care about it because they don't understand it. The reasonableness is, it doesn't define reasonable in the Open Meetings Act. Reasonable to who? Reasonable to you or reasonable to me? The basic intent, and it is in writing, I'm not going to give you a copy because you can read it, is that these meetings are, the rules and the meetings are for the citizen to be able to understand and comment, to address their government. But all of these little side roads that we're taking with a lot of these things are ways to restrict the citizens' ability to come and understand, participate. And then some people wonder why there's a lot of citizens besides me that are raising holy hell out there in the meetings. And they probably will be even worse tonight at Fremont. Fremont seems to be duplicating Omaha.
Because I'm reading it, and even though I'm not a plumber and I don't understand it, it actually seems very clear to me. When the restroom fixture count exceeds the required number of fixtures, the ratios to the lavatory shall be 1 lavatory for each 2 or a fraction thereof.
Am I allowed to
I mean,
comment?
I'm not a plumber, but it makes sense. So we have the code. Do you have anything to say about the code?
May we talk?
No, just, do you have anything to say about
All
the
right.
code?
I'm sorry, but you're a lawyer. I'm not.
This is about plumbing, believe me. You don't want a lawyer doing your plumbing. Thanks.
Thank you, Mr. Starr. What I would like to add on agenda item 55 is the importance of Jim Wonder and where we are with this code. And especially when you see somebody from a local who comes up and represents union plumbers and non-union plumbers that have worked with the city, and everybody's in agreement, right? Because at the end of the day, that's what we want. It makes everybody's job easier, whether you understand the code or not. So, Councilmember Vagley, you're recognized.
Just wanted to thank Mike for coming down and the work you do behind the scenes with everybody with the city. I know a lot of time goes into that, and as you said, it was both represented and non-represented plumbers that all came together to do this. So I appreciate the efforts that working people and you do in respect to that. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Is there any other opponents on agenda item 55? Okay, seeing none, public hearing's closed.
Item 56, an ordinance to approve an agreement with Corville Enterprise Comp, Inc. to provide workers' compensation, case management, claims management, and risk management services.
Public hearing on agenda item 56 is today. Director.
Hi, Deb Sander, Director of Human Resources. I have with me Zach Wagner, who's our Workers' Compensation Coordinator. We'll answer any questions you may have.
Okay, thank you. Are there any other proponents here today? Zach, go ahead. Now's your time.
I was prepared to answer questions.
Okay, we'll call you back up. Okay, are there any other proponents? Any opponents? Seeing no lights, public hearing is closed.
Item 57, an ordinance to approve an agreement with Dr. Samantha Klinkenbeard in the amount of $11,000 and to authorize funding for such agreement from the fiscal year 2020 Law Enforcement Mental Health and Wellness Act grant.
Okay, great. Public hearing is today on agenda item 57. Are there any proponents?
Deputy Chief Michelle Bang, Omaha Police Department, 505 South 15th Street, and I'm here to answer any questions. I am a proponent.
Okay, thank you, Deputy Chief. Are there any other proponents on agenda item 57? Seeing none, are there any opponents on 57? Okay, seeing none, public hearing is closed.
Item 58, an ordinance authorizing the issuance of a purchase order to Abe's Trash Service for rubbish container service for the Papillion Creek Water Resource Recovery Facility.
Public hearing on agenda item 58 is today. Are there any proponents? Seeing none, are there any opponents? Public hearing is closed.
Item 59, an ordinance to approve an agreement with the Metro Area Continuum of Care for the Homeless in the amount of $16,908,704.30 and to authorize funding from the U.S. Department of the Treasury Emergency Rental Assistance Funds.
The public hearing is today on agenda item 59. Proponents, please.
Thank you, Mr. President. Kevin Anderson, City of Omaha Mayor's Office. Here with Bill Lukash from Planning Department and Randy McCoy with the Match Organization. Here in support of just shy of $17 million for an additional round of emergency rental assistance to be contracted with Match for disbursement to those who need it. Earlier this year, this council or previous council approved $22 million for the same purposes from the U.S. Treasury. And within a matter of weeks, the Match Organization developed and started deploying a program by which those funds could be expended under the accordance of a large set of federal guidelines for a new program and program dollars. And at last report I saw, and I know we've got a presentation here showing the disbursement of some of those funds, that the disbursement is well over 75% of that total award. And you compare that with what we've seen for national reports, that of about 335 total jurisdictions that were in receipt of these funds for disbursement, the cumulative disbursement of those funds is less than 30%. And so I think that speaks to the City of Omaha's deployment, its partnership, and Match's efforts for the disbursement of those funds, getting it into the hands of folks that need it, and why we're confident with the second round of funds being administered by the Match Organization. I'll stick around for any questions.
Thank you, Mr. Anderson. Next proponent, please.
Hi, Bill Lukash, Omaha Planning Department. I just have a few quick slides to show you, if you don't mind, to talk a little bit about the status of our emergency rental assistance program. Oops, I guess I don't need to show you that. You already know what we're talking about. Oh, there we go. So just some basic information. I don't think I've really had an opportunity to talk to you about the status of the program. So Match began accepting applications first week of April of 2021. Of course, those funds are targeted to households earning 80% or less of area median income or households who have been unemployed due to COVID-19. Match has several partnering agencies, United Way, Lutheran Family Services, Together, and Community Alliance. In total, we've paid out $16.6 million, 3,309 applications. And then this is a breakdown of where that money is going to. Vast majority of the funds are going to rent. OPPD, MUD, internet, and other are also categories their funding has gone toward. Since April, I should say, this is a chart showing which weeks have seen the most applications and the most money going out to applicants. And you can see there was a huge spike of over $2 million in 1 week. I can't read that from here. It's July 18th. Some of this may have been due to concern over eviction moratoriums ending. Some of it could have been the advertising campaign. We tried different strategies in both North, South Omaha, Eastern Omaha in general, where we thought these funds would be most used. So it could have been those efforts as well. Randy can maybe speak about what happens after August 15th. I don't have that data right now in front of me, but you get a sense of what's going on. The 5 highest needs zip codes and the amount of money that's gone out, 68111, 104, 134, 105, and 102. And I will show you next a map showing exactly where those those zip codes are located. This is 68111. 68104, 68134, 102, and 105. And these are the areas, of course, where we focused advertising, but there is also a very high percentage of rental properties in those areas as well. So timing, this is kind of the critical component of these funds. Of the $22 million that we received already, we may run out in early September, which is right around the corner. And of course, we're greatly concerned about that. The Treasury will redistribute, I can't talk, after September 30th. So if our funds are going to run out in early September potentially, and we won't get redistributed funds until after probably October 1st, we could have a gap of ERAP funds that we can allocate to people. It could be that the Treasury says we want to do something sooner. I don't know. I'd hate to take that chance or hate to expect that. All these funds must be spent by 12/31/2021. At least that's how it stands now. What ERAP 2 does, one, it can extend until 2025, but also by your approving of this agreement, we can have gap filling funds from the end of September to whenever ERAP 1 is redistributed to us. And I can't say that word, so I apologize. So on my bullet point on the right-hand side, it plugs the gap, of course, that we've identified that we will have. We will switch back to ERAP 1 funds if we get another allocation. I'm going to use allocation instead of the other word I can't say. And then we will resume using ERAP 2 funds on January 1st, assuming that the ERAP 1 will still run out on 12/31/2021. Now, it could be that the Treasury says we will extend the term of the ERAP 1 funds, but I don't know that that's going to be true or not. Redistribution, there we go, of the ERAP 2 funds will occur on March 31st, 2022, and we have to spend 50% of the funds that we have. So that's a lot of information, I know. I do have this information I'm going to send to all of you in a little bit, along with some demographic information about who's using the funds and household size, not size, but just other kinds of demographics. I'll get that to you shortly, and I'll be here if you have any questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Lukash. Are there any other proponents for agenda item number 59? Seeing none, are there any opponents? Seeing none, Councilmember Harding, you are recognized.
Thank you, Mr. President. I want to thank Randy and Match and Bill and his department in the city. It was interesting when these funds first became available. It made perfect sense not to recreate the wheel and form a partnership with Match to make sure that we had that distribution network set up. I think it kind of rolled out a little slowly, but that was mostly because of maybe not understanding how the process worked. But I think over time, as Bill showed us in those slides, that it's been successful to the point of almost being, I mean, if we're extinguishing those funds, I'm glad we have a plan B in place that goes to show again Bill's involvement and understanding of the process and making sure that gap doesn't happen if at all possible. So we appreciate that. I also want to say, and I hope this isn't out of order, but since I missed last week's meeting, I wanted to make some comments on a related subject of when we had that the gap or the moratorium on the eviction gap, and saw a number of eviction cases go through, and Councilmember Melton, in working with some clients, discovered that there's actually, with the funds being exhausted and the timeline coming to a close, and with that moratorium lifted, it was still unbelievable that some tenants and/or landlords were not aware of the program. And I had a conversation with Mr. Lukash about, maybe something that we can do to help not only the tenants understand, but also the landlords understand. Because I think certainly if the landlords are in a position where they're not getting paid their rent, that and the tenants may not have the knowledge of the programs that are out there, we have a way of contacting, I think, the landlords that Bill and I have been talking about, and hopefully maybe have a plan here in place soon that maybe we can do that. But I want to thank you for bringing that to light in the last couple of weeks. We worked together on getting some space in the building through the building commission for you to be able to do your volunteer work, which I think is beneficial, obviously, both to the tenants and landlords, but more importantly, to make sure people have a safe place to rest their head at night. So very supportive of this collaborative effort, very supportive of making sure we don't have a gap in that funding, and appreciate all the work that Match and the city have done together to make this a success.
Councilmember Melton, you're recognized.
Thank you. And while you're here, because I know we vote on this next week, but you're here today, and I really do want to thank you for all the efforts that Match has done. I mean, and I've seen it at work. I've actually watched people that I'm helping through the Volunteer Lawyers Project downstairs apply for funds, get funds, and then I heard that one of them was within a week to week and a half of the landlord received the funds. And I can also tell you, I've witnessed landlords and tenants walk out together, and the landlord thanked me for getting involved. And then I gave her information. I said, before you file any more, you can file on behalf of your tenants. You have to work with them, unbeknownst to them, but she was unaware of it. So then we were able to provide her with information. So this really is, I say, it's a win-win. It's a win-win for landlords that have mortgages that have to get paid and they don't have anywhere to get the money, and also for tenants to be able to stay in their homes. But the timing of it, I've been very impressed by, because it's not easy to be able to get all the information from tenants who may not be providing the information that you need. I mean, and then there's also some even language barriers and understanding of what's needed. But I think Match has just done an incredible job. I mean, we knew that you were really good and we were confident you could do it, but now we've seen that you actually did do it. And should continue, because I can't think of anyone better. And also then in working with other organizations, in fact, I just got a list of other organizations to help people who need to move. Match is getting the funds, but then we need to help people pay for their moves and kind of get those things, because our goal here is to prevent homelessness. We've got a lot of great homeless shelters who are willing to take anyone, but really we don't want that mom and child who have stuff to have to give up all their stuff and just go to a shelter for a month or so. We want to be able for them to have their stuff and move somewhere else. And that's what Match, working with Heartland Family Services and other organizations such as Volunteer Lawyers, I mean, you really have an entire community of Together Omaha, and Aaron, who we heard from last week. We're all everybody's coming together, and that's, I don't know, for me, it just makes me feel good. It makes me very proud of Omaha. I'm proud of a lot of the nonprofits and our city who are all kind of jumped in this and are working together. So, but I really wanted to thank you and your organization, because I've witnessed what you're doing. So thank you.
Okay, and thank you. I'm seeing no other lights. Public hearing is closed.
Non-action items 60 through 78, do not require public hearing or city council consideration at this meeting, but will be placed on a future agenda for public hearing and or vote. The reason for non-action is noted after the item on the agenda, as well as the date the item is expected to appear on agenda for consideration. Motion to adjourn.
Yeah, is there a motion? Motion and second. Roll call.
Rowe. Yes. Bagley. Harding. Johnson. Yes. Melton. Yes. Mr. President.
Yes.
Motion passed 6-0. Meeting is adjourned at 3:04.